The tornado siren cut through the air at 3:15 on a Tuesday afternoon, a piercing wail that sent chills down my spine. The sky over our little subby VY Shown, Willow Creek Estates, had turned that eerie, sickly green that every Midwesterner knows means trouble. The wind was already howling, bending the sturdy oaks in our front yard like they were made of rubber. My wife, Sarah, was in the kitchen, frantically stuffing our emergency bag with water, snacks, and flashlights. Our kids, 7-year-old Lily and 5-year-old Max, were glued to the Lee VY-ing room window, their wide eyes tracking the swirling, angry clouds above. "Dad, is that a tornado?" Max asked, his voice small but curious. I didn't have time to answer. We had to move. We'd only been in Willow Creek for 4 months, renters in a quiet community with a reputation for its pristine lawns and ironclad HOA rules. When we signed the lease, I'd skimmed every page of the HOA handbook, and one detail stuck out. Page 17, clear as day, said the community storm shelter was open to all residents saw during severe weather. So when a National Weather Center VYC flashed a tornado warning for our county, I grabbed the kids, Sarah slung the bag over her shoulder, and we bolted for the concrete bunker at the heart of the neighborhood. That's where we ran into Deborah Vance, and that's when our day turned into a nightmare. Deborah stood like a sentinel in front of the shelter's heavy metal door, clutching a clipboard in one hand and a walkie-talkie in the other, like she was commanding a battlefield. Her auburn hair, somehow untouched by the whipping wind, framed a face set in a scowl. Her HOA president badge gleamed on her crisp blazer, a beacon of authority under the darkening sky. As we approached, Lily clinging to my hand and Max tucked against Sarah, Deborah's eyes locked onto us, and her expression could have stopped a freight train. "Excuse me," she shouted, her voice sharp enough to cut through the growing roar of the storm. "Where do you think you're headed?" I blinked, confused, as a gust nearly knocked Lily off her feet. "The storm shelter," I yelled back, struggling to be heard over the wind. "The tornado warning just hit our area." Sarah pulled the kids closer, their faces pale as the sky churned above us. Deborah let out a laugh, cold and biting, like she'd just heard the punchline to a bad joke. "Oh, no, no, no," she said, stepping forward to block the entrance, her body a human barricade. "This shelter is for board members and their families only. You need to find somewhere else." I felt my stomach twist, a mix of disbelief and anger. Behind her, through the shelter's narrow window, I could see neighbors already inside safe dry, watching this standoff like it was some reality show. "Deborah," I said, forcing my voice to stay calm, "I've got the HOA rules on my phone. Page 17 says the shelters for all residents during emergencies. We pay dues like everyone else." Her eyes narrowed, and she stepped closer, forcing us back from the door. "Those rules don't apply to renters, she snapped, her tone dripping with contempt. "This is a homeowner facility. You should have thought about that before you chose to rent." Sarah's grip tightened on the kids' hands, and I saw fear creeping into Lily's eyes as thunder rumbled closer. Raindrops, fat and heavy, started to fall. "Deborah," I said, my patience fraying, "there are kids here. This isn't right." But she was already turning away, barking into her walkie-talkie with theatrical flair. "All board members, confirm your families are inside. We're at capacity and sealing the entrance soon." It was a lie so blatant I felt my jaw drop. The shelter could hold 40 people, and I could see at least 20 empty spots inside. The wind was ferocious now, bending streetlights and hurling debris across the parking lot. Lily started to cry, and Max pressed himself against Sarah's leg, whispering, "Why won't she let us in?" Something cold and heavy settled in my chest. This wasn't just petty HOA nonsense anymore. This was dangerous. "Deborah," I said, my voice hard, "step aside. The National Weather Center VYC says a tornado could hit any minute. This isn't a game." She spun to face me, her face flushed with righteous fury. "Don't you dare tell me how to run my community," she hissed, jabbing a finger in my chest. "I've been president for 8 years. Keeping this place orderly, maintaining property values. You renters just bring trouble." That's when I noticed Mrs. Liu, our neighbor, filming the whole thing from her car, her phone steady despite the chaos. Smart move. Across the lot, Javi Torres was on his phone, gesturing wildly at the sky, probably calling 911. At least some people had their heads on straight. The rain was a torrent now, and the tornado sirens seemed to pulse in my bones. Deborah, sensing her audience, raised her voice, playing to the crowd. This shelter was built with homeowner dues. Renters contribute nothing but complaints. Then, in a move that stole the breath from my lungs, Deborah grabbed the shelter's door handle, slammed it shut, and twisted the manual lock from the outside. She just locked a dozen people inside, while Leah VYing family's kids included exposed to a tornado. Deborah, what the hell are you doing? I shouted, my voice nearly lost in the storm. You trapped them in there. She clutched her walkie-talkie, her voice eerily calm. Attention, shelter occupants. The entrance is secured for your safety. Remain calm and await my all clear. Then she turned to me, her smile chilling. Order must be maintained, even in disasters. Police sirens joined the tornado sirens, and I've never been so relieved to hear them. Javi Wire jogged over, phone still to his ear. Cops are 3 minutes out, he yelled. Deborah's confidence flickered, but she doubled down. This is private HOA property, she declared. I have every right to control access. The first police car screeched into the lot just as hail began to fall small, stinging pellets that burned on impact. Officer Reynolds stepped out, took one look at our soaked, shivering family, and his face went from calm to Lee VYD. Ma'am, unlock that door now, he bellowed over the storm. Deborah marched toward him, clipboard raised like a shield. Officer, I'm the elected president of Willow Creek Estates. These people, she waved dismissively at us, have no legal right to this facility. Reynolds stared at her like she'd lost her mind. Ma'am, there's a tornado warning I don't care if this shelter belongs to the President of the United States. Unlock it, or I will. Deborah, deep in her power trip, actually demanded his ID and a warrant. That's when firefighter Thompson's Halligan bar cracked the shelter's lock with a glorious snap. The door swung open, and the trapped families poured out, some furious, others just confused. Reynolds was already pulling out his handcuffs as Deborah sputtered about jurisdictional authority. Ma'am, you're under arrest for unlawful detainment and reckless endangerment, he said, his voice clipped. As the cuffs clicked around her wrists, she was still yammering into her walkie-talkie. Con VY and said her HOA board could override the law. This is President Vance. I'm being illegally detained. The tornado warning lifted 20 minutes later, no touchdowns in our area, but Deborah's reign was done. As Reynolds loaded her into the patrol car, she was still shouting about board PRI VY legies, obly VY us to the neighbors who just watched her choose power over people. 3 weeks later, I sat in the emergency HOA meeting where Deborah was voted out 12-0, with one board member too ashamed to show up after being locked in the shelter. She'd shown up, thinking she could charm her way back, but when the vote was announced, her face went ghost white. The criminal charges hit harder than anyone expected. 18 months of probation and a DULA $12,000 fine for reckless endangerment. In court, when the judge read the sentence, Deborah gasped and nearly collapsed, like she'd never imagined consequences could touch her. This whole mess left me wondering, how far should HOA power go? Was Deborah just a control freak? Or did the system let her think she was untouchable? Should renters have the same rights as homeowners in emergencies? And what would you have dunsted up to her or found another way? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Hit that like button if this story got your blood pumping. And subscribe for more real-life drama. Let's get this debate rolling.